Some breaking news for you here on The Late Show Live. President Trump has just posted again on Truth Social. This time he said this: Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day, which is therefore what they are losing if it is closed. He says they only say they want it closed because I have it totally, capital letters, blockaded, brackets, capital letters, closed, exclamation mark. So they merely want to save face. People approached me 4 days ago saying, sir, Iran wants to open up the strait immediately, but if we do that, there can never be a deal with Iran unless we blow up the rest of the country. Their leaders included President Donald J. Trump. OK, let's get the take of Special Advisor on Geopolitics, Trade, Security, Faith and Diplomacy, Mark J. Finlay. Mark, thank you so much for coming in. You are a brilliant man to join all the dots together geopolitically of what's going on around the world at the moment. But your reaction to that Truth Social post first, if we can.
Well, it's hot off the presses, so I'm just taking it in. But on first reading, I absolutely agree with the president. Of course they want it open. This is about constraint of trade and using the physical constraints of narrowings of water to stop trade happening. They need it. They need it badly, and their customers need it badly, both the Russians and the Chinese. And so no doubt President Trump has a wider game plan in mind as he puts in place these measures.
But do they want it open badly enough, Mark, that they would give up on the idea of ever having a nuclear weapon? Because that seems to have been the sticking point in all of these negotiations, from what we can tell, from the little that we know actually about the negotiations.
I've certainly heard lots of things over the years about whether they were really intending to do something. I remember having a conversation with Lord Des Brown, who was one of the negotiators for a former administration back in London on the nuclear capability of Iran, and was part of that original deal that, of course, President Obama was part of. I really feel that there has been such disruption of the regime. The president referred today to the extension of the ceasefire by saying that they are fractured. They're trying to work out who is speaking for the authorities in Tehran, and the same can be said in other parts of the world also. So I think that a deal will be done. You know, in anything, in the art of the deal, there has to be something positive in it for all of the parties. The
naysayers that we have in the studio about the merits of this conflict at all, whether there was ever any justification, and Freddie, who's been in our studio, Freddie Hayward, is with us tonight. He you know, puts up a strong argument that there was never an America First rationale for this, that somehow it has, this war has started without any clear objective and no clear off-ramp. And Freddie is not alone in saying that. I mean, 3 of the biggest podcasters in the world now died in the wall Trump supporters: Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. They are all agreeing with this now. There's a lot of noisy voices who were previously supportive of Trump who are not supportive of him now. What's happening there? Who's right? Who's wrong?
Well, there's one factor that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's there are midterm elections coming up in the not too distant future, so there are lots of audiences to play to here. But I really do feel that the president's plan, you know, has got merits. And, you know, I think we've been placating this authoritarian regime for far too long. You know, dare I say it, I come from Northern Ireland, and I remember the fact that the Iranian authorities were supporting terrorism in my homeland and changed the name of Winston Churchill Street in Tehran to Bobby Sands Street after the IRA hunger striker.
Really?
Because the British embassy was located on that street. So, you know, it's a regime that has tried hard to get under the skin of people, but more than that, it has funded so many proxies. And so American interests are being impacted by those proxies. And we're seeing this all over. We've got a lot of focus at the moment on the Straits of Hormuz. Everybody knows about the Straits of Hormuz, but there are a series of straits in the world, and the near neighboring one here is Bab al-Mandab, which is really the strait, the narrowing, I think it's only 23 kilometers across, which separates Yemen from Djibouti and Eritrea and Somalia. And we've got, you know, the terrorists, the Houthis, obviously operating with the support of the Iranians from Yemen. And likewise, al-Shabaab in Somalia, which is really a very vicious version of al-Qaeda, again supported by that regime. So they're attacking American ships, they're attacking British ships, they're attacking you know, the economies of all of our nations. Interestingly, that the Yemenis ceased, I wouldn't say they called it a ceasefire, but they stopped attacking ships when the Gaza ceasefire came in place. But they have attacked over 100 vessels in that area and sunk 2 bulk carriers in those straits. And there are other straits, we're just referring to these. You know, we can look at nearby territories. Many people from the United Kingdom might have gone on a cruise in the Mediterranean into the Aegean Sea around the Greek islands. Well, that goes through what some people refer to as the Turkish Straits, through the Dardanelles and through into the Sea of Marmara and on into the Black Sea. In that area, it's the agreement that controls it is called the Montreux Convention, and it gives the full autonomy to Turkey. Turkey. So Turkey enacted, they felt that they were enabled to invoke Article 19, I think it's called, of that treaty, to close it to belligerent vessels. Well, who were those belligerent vessels? The Russian Navy in the Black Sea. So the Russian Navy was suddenly penned in that area. And the net effect of that, of course, was that the Ukrainians, with their drones, picked off 1/3 of the Russian fleet. And because of the constraint of those straits, the Russians were not able to reinforce their fleet coming from the North Atlantic or any other route. They were cut off.
So do you feel that this conflict is shining a light, therefore, on these global pinch point vulnerabilities?
Yes.
And actually, therefore what? Therefore America and perhaps NATO and Europe and the UK, and do all of these powers have to be more mindful that this could be the start of what could turn out to be many conflicts across waterways around the world?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, the first thing that happens is the shifting of supply chains.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're seeing people having to scrabble around for new partners to buy their aviation gas and their fuel oil from different locations. But I mentioned those straits through the Dardanelles into the Black Sea, and that resulted not only in the Russian fleet being cut off, it stopped the trade that Russia was using along the Black Sea and left the Chinese actually changing its supply chain in response to these constraints across the Caspian and using countries like Azerbaijan into Turkey. And guess what? Turkey again suddenly becomes a much more strategically important piece of ground. It was always a land bridge, and it's now, you know, a land and sea
so
hinge.
If we think about this from the British point of view, and we look at it, what it's shown us about the United Kingdom is that not only do we now have a much greater understanding, most of us, about how depleted our military is,
yes,
but it's also demonstrated to us how absolutely weakened and deindustrialized we are, given that we import 50% of our fuel and 50% of our food, Mark.
I know.
These global shocks highlight just how weak, vulnerable and malleable we are.
Well, America was a lot more prepared.
Yeah.
Still not perfectly prepared, and we saw this, of course, with the same thing when COVID happened, and we saw how unprepared we were in so many ways. So we've improved. We have that energy independence. We are the largest oil producer. We have the potential to export more to our allies and partners. People need to wean themselves off reliance on adversary supply chains. The United Kingdom and Europe is far too dependent upon people who are not trustworthy.
Yeah. Back to Iran, just for a moment, as we look at this, if people are just tuning in at 2:10 in the morning in the UK, either you're not gone to bed yet or you've just come in from a very long day at work. This is the latest Truth Social post from President Trump, and he's pointing out that Iran could be making $500 million a day from the sale of their oil and from goods that pass through the Straits. They're currently not doing so. It's Operation Economic Fury, this is, as opposed to Operation Epic Fury, which was the military arm of this particular conflict. Mark, how long can Iran, do you have any idea how long they can survive without this revenue?
Well, the revenue is one thing there, and then the supplies to their customers that are so important to them. We know that China is running low on key reserves, and its economy was already shrinking, which was not something that we could say about China in the recent past. So I think there is an urgency, and I do hope that that will bring about a solution being found. Of course, it's not the only conflict we're dealing with here, Bev. You know, the related conflict that we have at the moment between Lebanon and the Israeli forces in pursuit of Hezbollah, a proxy for the Iranian regime. And I am hoping and praying that on Thursday, when the ambassadors from those countries come to the United States, we're going to see a resolution of a situation which has led to 1.2 million people being displaced. We were talking the other day on Zoom to a number of our friends, including Boutros Mansour, who is the General Secretary of the World Evangelical Alliance, who represents 600 million Christians in 161 countries. He is an Arab Christian living in Israel, in Nazareth, a town you might have heard of. Yeah. And, you know, he was talking about the difficulties that they are having, you know, across these borders. So we have to address the concerns. We cannot have these proxy terrorist organizations attacking the people of neighboring countries.
Let me just ask you one quick question before you go. Mandelson, Starmer, huge story in the UK. Starmer's in all sorts of trouble over it. Have you spent much time with the new ambassador here,
yes,
and what do you make of him, Sir
I
Christian
think he's
Turner?
wonderful.
Me too.
I think Sir Christian Turner is a very safe pair of hands. Why they didn't appoint him in the first instance. He was based here in the United States before. Very interesting, of course, he was the British High Commissioner to Pakistan back in the day, and now, of course, we're seeing Pakistan playing an important role in some of these peace negotiations. So he's very adept, a real seasoned professional, and was advisor to Downing Street as well in the past. So I've high hopes, and I've high hopes of the fact that we are coming up to the semi-quincentennial. We're going to be seeing the King coming and visiting the United States
next week,
and people are going to start to look at the special relationship in a new and fresh way. It has taken a few hard hits recently, but I think Sir Christian is the man to steer the ship.
Okay, brilliant. Mark, so good to see you. Thank you so much. Mark J. Finlay.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Right, let us know what you think at home, and let's have a quick look at some of the other main news here in America.